Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to really know your value as a professional woman, how to ask for the job or the promotion that you want with confidence. So come back and join me for episode 51 today, where we're going to talk about that and much more so that you realize that betting on yourself is never wrong.
Are you a strong, independent woman who's passionate about her career? Then this podcast is perfect for you. Based on her book, The Career Woman's Secret Playbook, career coach Dr. Dawn Hamby shares the kind of insider secrets you can only know if you've hired, fired, and promoted employees over the past 30 years.
Ladies, I'm on a mission to help busy women just like you create a career and life you love without sacrificing your work-life balance to get it. Come join me as we inspire and motivate each other only as women can and have lots of fun along the way.
With Dr. Dawn's tools, strategies, and action steps, you can unleash your personal and professional power in a whole new way. Here's today's episode.
Welcome back, ladies. I am so glad that you're here because not only are we going to be talking about knowing your value and how to approach these difficult conversations with much more confidence, but I'm going to be letting you in on the way that I coach our clients to help them do just that. So you're going to get the insider secrets of what that's all about today as I share not only some of my tips and tricks on how to approach a situation like this, but I also want you to know some of the relevant statistics so that you're kind of up to date on current trends. And I'm also going to share some really interesting gender differences. That's right, ladies. Sometimes the men just get it right, and doesn't it just pain me to say that? I mean, who doesn't want to be right? So anyway, I think you're going to really enjoy not only this very important topic, but some of the strategies I'm going to share with you. Now, don't forget, I want to hear from you. So be sure to like and comment on this video if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, no matter what platform you're on, because we really want to build our audience, and our listeners are so amazing. Seriously, you guys, you do leave the most wonderful comments. We get such great support, and I want to make sure I can continue to expand this platform, and you can be such an important part of that journey. Now, as a thank you for listening, I want to make sure that you have access to some amazing freebies. So head over to our website at www.drdawnshoptalk.com. Dr. Dawn Shop Talk is a consulting company. I'm the CEO and founder, and I could not be more proud of the kinds of services that we can provide. So that's why I want to make sure that you not only get plugged in case we can help you or your company, but again, I want you to have access to our free resources that could really help. Who doesn't need a little extra support? And ladies, you don't have to do this on your own. That's what I'm here for as a business consultant and career and life coach. Also through our workshops and seminars, these are the kinds of topics that we tackle for our clients. So I can't wait to share with you our topic today. So let's get into it. The first thing I want you to know is to understand that, there are still, even in this modern age, some gender differences and biases. Now, I don't want that to hold you back, but I want you to be aware of them because this is where the men in our lives can really inspire us. Yeah, sometimes they might frustrate us, right? Especially in the workplace. Okay, or maybe at home when they're not emptying the dishwasher. Actually, I can't complain. I do all the dishes. My husband does all the laundry. So what am I whining about? But in any case, I want you to know that there are some lessons that we can learn from the men. One important lesson that they've just mastered a little better than us, mainly because for years they have known and have had to know their value, and our culture and society has supported that. Because although we're in 2024, when you look at the history of women empowerment, As a former history teacher, I always like to keep it real and realize that, it takes a long time for societal norms to change. Can they change? Absolutely. We've made a lot of progress, ladies. And when you look at women's rights throughout the world, yes, we're still in an amazing situation right here in good old US of A. But we still have a long way to go, don't we? And sometimes in the workplace, these biases can show up. In general, when men apply for those promotions or jobs, in some cases, they meet less than half of what those qualifications are. Now, are they trying to dupe the interview committee? Absolutely not. In some cases, they might have up to 60% of those qualifications, right? So there's still that 40% gap, kind of as a minimum. What's happening here is they believe they have these other skill sets that could help them get there. Women, on the other hand, if they don't have at least 9 of those 10 qualifications, they will hold themselves back. They won't even throw their hat in the ring. That's what I want us to change, ladies. Now, as I go through our podcast, if I have videos on our YouTube channel that I think could help, I'll mention those. I've also covered other episodes on the podcast, so be sure to check those out. Where do you find those? Well, on YouTube, just click on more. They'll be in the description box. I'll include all the links on the podcast platform. You literally click on the episode, scroll up, and right there in the show notes, you can find them. So one of the playlists I'm going to provide for you in today's episode is a whole playlist of videos I have about how we hold ourselves back. Now, in this case, it really is generalizable to both men and women, but I think, ladies, you're going to see yourself in some of those examples, so be sure to check that out. Okay, that brings me to my second point. Let me share some other statistics with you. So if we're looking at these relevant stats, here's what I want to say. In addition to men applying for those jobs in greater numbers, we just talked about maybe just being qualified by 60%, here's something else that they do. They are willing to negotiate their salaries. They do so with more confidence, and they definitely do so in greater numbers. If women are not willing to do that, that is definitely contributing to the pay inequities that we still see in today's workplace. Now, is that the only factor? Absolutely not. There's still some societal and cultural norms that go into that. But whether or not we have that difficult conversation, that's really on us. There are times when we just have to put our big girl pants on, so to speak, march in there, and with confidence and assertiveness, not arrogance. And if that's interpreted as arrogance or being too aggressive, that's on the other person. I met recently with a client who was struggling with that because she was doing everything right on her side of the street. But she knew from previous conversations that her employer was seeing her behavior, her being proactive, in fact, as a little bit aggressive. She was able to have that difficult conversation. She went in there. I coached her on strategies that I've used for myself and for my staff and other clients, and even for friends, on how to frame the conversation, how to approach the conversation. In fact, guys, I've got scripts on my website that could help you with some of that. So be sure to look at that if that interests you. But it all came down to putting the fear aside, tapping into her courage, tapping into her CEO mindset, and being willing to have the conversation. Now, let me tell you something beautiful that happened as a result. Yes, there may still be some things that he was interpreting incorrectly, but she got so much more support than either one of us expected by her having that conversation. And I want that for you. Will it always turn out the way it did for my client? Absolutely not. But what if it did turn out that way for you? In business today, regardless of the business that you're in, miscommunication and misinterpretation of conversations, whether it's through email, on the phone, or through text, is common. It's one of the workshops I love actually presenting because you can see a real difference in companies and organizations if they just take the time to really presume the best about the other person and have that difficult conversation. So that's what the statistics are showing us. In much greater numbers, women are definitely holding themselves back. Which then leads me to my next statistic. Did you know that currently only 25% of women hold C-suite positions in Fortune 500 companies? Now, we're seeing a rise in that. In fact, we're up to 40% of women CEOs. But in many cases, that statistic is reflective of women like me who are starting their own businesses, right? So if they can't find it in the workplace, they're creating their own. I think that's awesome. I think it's amazing. And yes, we want to continue to do that and support small businesses today. But we need that to change systemically. We don't need to just be champions for ourselves. We need to make sure it's reflected in the workplace, right? And we can do that, ladies. That brings me to my next point. How do you go about accomplishing all that I'm talking about? Well, I've come up with 5 easy ways that you can do just that. So let's take a look at this. In other words, how are we going to assess our value, really calculate what that is in measurable terms, and then be able, with confidence, to ask for the job or to throw our hat in the ring for that next career opportunity or promotion? So here's how to do that. Tip number 1. I want you to do a full self-assessment. In other words, I want you to start by reflecting on all of your accomplishments, your skills, and your expertise. Then I want you to create a list. You guys know I'm all about a list. All you have to do is look at our digital store and see all of the lists I have there for you. So create a list of the key achievements. Once you've written all that out, I want you to really highlight where you've made a difference for your organization. This can prep you for future interviews when it comes to that. And when you're making that list, make sure you're very specific on what the situation was, how you brought your skill set to the table to enhance that situation or fix the problem, and ultimately, how your actions benefited your organization. Now, let me throw in an extra bonus tip here. I don't want you to let everyone else's feedback or opinion always drive your decision making. It is an important part of your decision making, and I will explain that in just a second. But I want to make sure you feel like you're the CEO of your own life. Your CEO mindset, I talk about that in the book. This is something I definitely coach my clients on. You guys, it's so important for you to realize what you can and cannot control, and for you to see how much value you have in really steering that ship. You're the one in the driver's seat, ladies. Don't give that up. So yes, I do want you to make an informed decision, but I don't want you to get to the point where everybody else's opinion is always making the final decision. I hope that makes sense. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. So for example, I want you on a regular basis to ask for input and feedback from your supervisor and your coworkers and colleagues. I want you to understand and appreciate your special talents, what you bring to the table. And I also want you to assess, where are those rooms for improvement? I don't really see that as a weakness. I see instead, especially as a former school teacher, it's not that a student had a weakness. I always disagreed with that point of view. I just believed if you flip that script and really come from a place of yes and a source and foundation of positivity, you would see that you need to instead look at your skill sets as things you do well, things that you do best, and maybe things that are not your best skill set. I don't really see it as strengths and weaknesses. Yes, I think we can all agree that a strength would definitely be all those skills that are unique to you, what you bring to the table that nobody else brings. But I don't really like using the word weakness. I understand why they would use that because it's just, kind of the polar opposite in many cases of strength. So it's an easy way to visualize what you have to work on. But is it really a weakness? I would rather you focus on what you do better than anyone else. Nobody on the planet is going to be perfect. We have lots of episodes about perfectionism. I don't want you to get in that place because that not only holds you back, but it's so unrealistic. Who wants to be great at everything anyway? I think that would be pretty exhausting, right? So don't see your skill sets as strengths and weaknesses. Step into your power and see what you do well, but then think about just really enhancing that. Be the go-to person in that skill set. That will help you get the job and the promotion faster. And you know why? Because when you're building your brand, in other words, your reputation, and I've got several videos about that too, so I'll put that again, I'll make sure those links are available for you. What I want you to do is to remember that when you're building that professional and even your personal brand, people are going to remember you for what really stands out, the good, bad, and the ugly. So in the place of work, if you're doing a terrible job at something, yeah, people may be talking about that. We don't want that. Again, I don't want you to get stuck in that place, but I want you to really think about using this feedback, using this input to make an informed decision moving forward on what is something that's really unique to you. What do you do better than all your other skill sets? Enhance that, be the expert in that, and I promise you, these new career opportunities you're going to be able to ask for with much more confidence because the feedback you're going to get from others is, oh my gosh, Dawn, you do that so well. I'm so glad you were in the office today. I can't imagine if you weren't here, what I would have done. That kind of thing. I want that for you, and you can get there. Number 3, I want you to do market research. So before you go in and really negotiate that salary, because remember, this episode is all about knowing your value. Maybe it's about staying in that job, in that actual position, but knowing that it's time to ask for that raise. So this is part of that, right? So here's what you need to do. If you're not doing your market research and looking at both your state and national standards of what the average salaries would be, and there's lots of ways that you can find that information. I've helped clients with that. You guys, I'm telling you, the internet makes it very easy. Now, of course, you have to double check those numbers. Not everything's going to be reliable on the internet, but you can get a really good ballpark idea of what that position should pay. Then use that information to set realistic goals for your career progression, and don't be fearful about being ambitious for that. We have to be able to do that in greater numbers for ourselves so that you can turn the job you're in right now into your dream job. If you're getting compensated what you're worth, isn't it a lot easier to love where you're at right now? And if you're passionate about your work, it will lead to other things. Before I started my company, in fact, some of you that listened to episode 50, our last episode, you already know a little bit about this story. Well, I started this company on the side. I wanted to start having clients. I wanted to write my first book, all these things. When I started working full time with my clients and helping them achieve their career goals and their life goals, it became very apparent to me that I always felt fortunate that out of the 4 jobs that I had, that the last 2 positions I held were offered to me where I didn't have to apply for them. I mean, I love rebooting a resume and helping someone prepare for the interview. Sure, we offer those services through our company right now, but ideally, I would love for my clients not to have to apply for the position to be offered to them. How does that happen? By building your brand. How do you build your brand? Well, in part, you have to know your value and be confident, not arrogant. Confident, there's definitely a difference. So again, if you do your research and understand your value, then you're going to have the steps necessary to either take your current job, make it the dream job, or it's going to lead to that job that will really fulfill you. Okay, guys, moving on to number 4. I want you to network. I want you to network like crazy. Now, you've heard me talk about local chambers of commerce. If you've been listening for a while, you know I talk often about Business Networking International, or BNI. That's another networking group. It's, in fact, the largest networking group in the world. It's been around for close to 40 years now. I say that because I want you to have the circle of support you need to be able to seek out those career opportunities. And oftentimes in the world of work, it's, as they say, who you know. It's not always what you know. Now, Who you know is going to get your foot in the door, but what you know is going to help you land that job. So I want you to continue to work on your skill set. Don't be afraid to do that. I'll give you some more details about that also in just a second. But I definitely want you to start really building your professional network. They can be there for you. They can help you step out of your comfort zone. You'll be forced to walk up to folks and say hello and, especially in person. That can be very intimidating, especially if you tend to be an introvert. Virtual platforms, in fact, might be more comfortable for you. Sure, start there, but don't be afraid to step out of that comfort zone because you need to do that in those top jobs anyway. If you're really wanting to go for gold, right? I'm thinking about the Olympics, so kind of an example there, then you have to be willing to bet on yourself, like I said at the top of the episode. All right, tip number 5. Remember when I was talking about being assertive? Let's practice that. That's our 5th tip. When you practice assertiveness, I want you to practice using verbiage that's more powerful. I've got some other episodes that talk about how subtle that is, so be sure to check that out. But in other words, make sure you're using language that both men and women would see as assertive, respectful, and professional. Don't make your sentences too long. If you over explain, it's not going to come across as confident. If it's too abrupt, then yes, the reverse is true, right? It could come across as rude. But just be aware that folks have different ways of communicating. Absolutely. But one thing is universal. If through networking, in our previous tip, you build those relationships and you ask more, for example, about the other person, I don't want you to go, for example, to a networking event and just sell, sell, sell. That doesn't work either. You start by building that circle of support, like I said. Well, once you've done that and through that process, you're going to naturally be able to continue with step 5 because you're going to be able to build that assertiveness and use the language that could get you there. So again, you already have that list of achievements. You already know what you can do to help a company, that return on investment by betting on yourself, right? Because companies want to know what is going to be that return on investment for them. What's the ROI? You hear that all the time. Well, through those networking events and by building those relationships, you're going to be able to practice that assertiveness so that you're more confident. And if it helps, write out some talking points the next time you are attending an important event or meeting. All of that will help you advocate for yourself so that you can communicate those career goals and make sure that it really does align with your company's mission and vision. And if it doesn't, don't be afraid to explore other career options. Men do this, by the way, again, unapologetically, because again, they have that societal and cultural norm, even in today's modern age, to feel that they should be a provider, right or wrong, that's still pervasive in our culture today. I want you to have that same level of respect for yourself and realize that in the modern world of work, exploring your career options is not being disloyal to your company. You have to be fresh on your skill sets. You have to keep that resume updated and continue to add what those big achievements are. In fact, when I do a resume for a client, I'm usually going to just refer to their 2 previous jobs. I'm not going to give a 5-page resume of every job they've ever held. I'm going to focus on their last 2 positions. But then when I list their achievements and their expertise and things along those lines, I'm going to highlight the skill set that really shows what they can do for the current company they're interested in applying for that job with. So I want you to do the same. And as we wrap up, here's a couple of other fun facts, and then I want to give you some takeaways. Fun fact number 1, did you know, speaking of these gender differences today, I want to highlight one more that came out in a LinkedIn study. This study revealed that women not only don't apply for those jobs unless they have all of those skill sets I mentioned earlier, but when compared to men with similar work histories, even if they had all the same skill sets as their male counterparts, in many cases, women in greater numbers still were less likely to even view themselves as a possible fit for that position. And did you also know that women are more likely to attribute their achievements to external factors instead of internal ones? In other words, they're going to attribute their success to other things other than their own zone of genius. Men, on the other hand, in greater numbers, again, I'm just speaking in generalities here so that you can see some differences and focus on what you can do to bridge that gap. Because men, on the other hand, tend to attribute their success to their personal and professional abilities. And one last fun fact, studies also show, ladies, women who do that can potentially earn up to $1 million more than women who do not. If that doesn't give you a little Monday motivation right there, ladies, I don't know what will. All right, as we wrap up, let me give you those takeaways I mentioned earlier. Let me just focus on three. Okay, I gave you lots of strategies and tips and ways to accomplish everything we talked about today, but here's three things I want you to focus on. Number one, again, document those achievements. Don't just do so on your resume. Make sure you send an email. Make sure you create a report. Have some sort of documentation at your current position about your innovative or creative ideas. Make sure that you do that again, not only to advocate for yourself, but sometimes women in greater numbers are not as visible. They don't mean to be. They may really love what they're doing currently, but if they don't let it be known and get away from this idea that if you do that, you're bragging too much, no, 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 no. I mean that I just want you to be more visible so that the powers that be, who could be the ones making the decision about whether you get the next career opportunity, really understand more regularly how you're contributing to the bottom line. If they're only reminded of this during your performance evaluation, let's say, then you guys, it's just too late. Because again, you want to be able to build that reputation, build that brand of being their go to person. What do they say? If you want something done, give it to your busiest employee. There's some truth to that. The work gravitates to the talented few, as they say. So make sure you're documenting that on a regular basis. Also, understand the power of mentorship, not just you finding your own mentor, but be willing to mentor a woman in your workplace right now. She might be younger than you. She may not be. Maybe she's older and is going back into the workforce. That's so scary, isn't it? I got the opportunity to talk about that very issue on a recent television interview. And you guys, this is a national trend. So we do need to come together, right? Not constantly be looking at the gender differences. However, I think there are some unique challenges for both genders, really. I want men to also have that same level of support from their male friends. And in some cases, they don't, at least not emotionally at times. So, what we need to do is to understand the power of mentorship for everyone. Some of my favorite employees have been the men. It's not always the ladies, although I have plenty that I could think of right now, ladies, you know who you are, that will always be special, not just as former employees of mine, but as lifelong friends. I just love that. So again, that can be the case for you as well. Understand how wonderful it is to take someone under your wing and in fact, their brand new perspective, whether they're re-entering the workforce or they're just starting, can also give you some amazing ideas that could help you currently where you are. You know, sometimes when we've been in the workforce for a long time, right, folks, we can kind of get a little disillusioned if we've been in the trenches for years. So that too can really help you think of things a little differently and from someone else's perspective. All right, the last takeaway is I want you to start thinking about attending workshops, whether it's virtual, whether it's an all-day workshop or a lunch and learn. I want you to really think about getting out there and really upskilling not just your professional skills, but making sure that you're incorporating your passion into your work life. I hope your work life is giving you that. Let me know if it's not. Maybe maybe we can help you. Again, I love one-on-one coaching, so we definitely have that available if you think I can help you. But in any case, really think about attending workshops that can not only increase your passion, but there are not just other YouTube videos out there, but actual workshops that can help you specifically learn how to negotiate and advocate for yourself. So if you feel like this is an area after listening to today's episode that you're struggling with, again, there's tons of free resources out there for you, not just on our website, but definitely on others. But no matter what you choose to do, the big picture here is I want you to invest in yourself. Whether it's coaching, whether it's a workshop, whether it's reading the latest book on the subject or listening to other podcasts, anything that could help you understand the powerful professional woman that you are and everything that you have to give. I want that for you. When I see women, especially, and that's how come my podcast is mainly for career women. We do have wonderful men that listen. I love you guys. Thank you so much, because obviously these topics are universal, but I have such a special place in my heart for business women and career women and working women, mainly because I think even in today's modern age, we still struggle a little bit more with this. There have been so many interviews that I've conducted where it just breaks my heart when the woman is selling herself short. And especially when it was somebody I personally knew, and I knew they just were not giving the best interview. And so over the years, I've learned definitely how to scope that out and figure out when someone's great on paper, but perhaps doesn't really truly have those examples I need to understand what you can do to help our company be better. And it would just, again, just make me so sad when I saw women I knew personally that were wonderful, but they didn't see it the way I saw it. So work on that, ladies. You can get there. I promise you. All right. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope these strategies and tools really helped you figure out whether or not you're advocating for yourself, whether or not you're betting on yourself, because if not, I know these strategies are time tested. These are ones I've used myself, and they're research based. Anytime I can give you current research, I'm definitely going to include that too. Just remember, you've got this. You can turn any job into your dream job. You know, I'm going to end our episode with our motto to remind you again of how much power you have. But before I close with that today, don't forget, I want you to join the conversation. So let me know what strategies you use, what tips you put in place. Have you had this difficult conversation that maybe you've been dreading? Are you willing to take that chance on yourself and make sure that your career is fulfilling? Because ladies, if you're not, there's just no way. It's not going to spill over into your personal life. That's one of the reasons that life coaching is usually part of what I offer my clients as a business and career coach. So think about that. Invest in yourself. Have fun this week. I'm glad that we're back on the pod. I took a 2-week break because if you didn't know this, yes, I believe in work-life balance, and I just came back from a wonderful trip, and I'm going on another trip. I know no one's going to feel sorry for me that I'm having to delay the podcast a little bit so I can make sure that I'm practicing what I'm preaching and make sure I have that balance between relaxation time, family time, friend time, all those things. If I can do it, I know you can too. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. I hope this helped inspire you and remind you of how special life is, and not to waste it on not giving yourself and advocating for yourself all the dreams that you want to achieve. As we wrap up, again, our motto, as always, is this: if you're not having a fantastic day, you've got the power to make it one. Till next time, everyone, take care. I know our episode is over, but this is just the beginning. If you're ready to take action but don't know where to start, just head over to DrDawnShopTalk.com for lots of free resources, ways to work together, and for even more. Subscribe to the Dr. Dawn Shop Talk YouTube channel. Remember, ladies, you don't have to take this journey alone. I've got you covered. Till next time.